Welcome to the No Party Line podcast. I'm the host, Andrew Neal, with Philippe Cicchini, state Senate candidate for Michigan's 9th District. We decided we were going to do something a little bit different today. Being that we're both from Michigan and this is very Michigan themed podcast, we'd love to chat a little bit about growing up in Michigan and have a little fun with it, and then also get to some of the issues that are very specific to Michiganders. So, Philippe, why don't you kick it off with just some general thoughts about growing up in Michigan?
Yeah, I'm very prideful of coming from Michigan. It's where my grandparents chose to settle when they moved here from Italy. And back in the day, it was a sponsorship type of situation where they moved here because they had a brother or an uncle or, whoever was there to sponsor them, put them up in a house, get them settled here, get their feet under them. But it was a quintessential story of coming here with a quarter in his pocket, my grandfather, and not speaking the language. And here we are, and that's a very immigrant story. But yeah, they picked Michigan and the Detroit area. He didn't do automotive work. I might be the only person I know who doesn't have very close direct family who has worked for one of the big three auto companies. Do you, by the way, are you connected at
Yes.
all? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. My grandfather on my dad's side, he moved up from the South to work at probably GM, I believe
Okay.
it was. Yeah, so I have a very classic automotive,
Yeah.
finding of Michigan. So
Yeah.
interesting that you don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have cousins who have since gone to do work for them, but not directly like on the line or anything
Hmm.
that direct. They are electricians or things of that nature, and they work in some of the factories or plants, but they are not part of the automotive production industry. So, kind of unique. But I have a friend who's worked for GM for the last 20 plus years. But I just love Michigan. I am always eager to introduce the state to friends of mine who've never been before. I've had the chance to show off the state to when like I said, I was living in DC. I made friends and, I'd bring them back and we went to the Jazz Fest downtown. That was, that's awesome. Another group of friends I brought, we went up to Mackinac. We went up to our cottage. We have a cottage in Oscoda. So we went jet skiing on the water. Took them to a Tigers game all in 1 week. So, I mean, getting the full flavor as much as you can cram in 7 days about the up north experience, the Mackinac experience, the Frankenmuth experience, Greektown, the Tiger game, and okay, that's all we can really do in 7 days. But it's a diverse state. Anyone knows that. It's a diverse state. Obviously the lakes, the rivers, the fishing, the hunting, the wildlife around here is it's a very unique state. And what is really cool too is just our proximity to Canada. I told my friend to bring his passport when he came to visit, and we just went to Windsor and had lunch one afternoon, which again, I mean, a handful of states can do the same thing and just cross the border because their border can. But that's another unique feature of our state is there is that international touch to it as well with our proximity to Canada. And I'm sure a lot of people know if you're watching this, chances are you're from Michigan and you know this fact, so it's not one of those probably going to blow you away. But Detroit is the only major U.S. city that is directly north of a part of Canada because of the way it is geographically. So again, I'm sure that I didn't blow anyone's hair back with that one, but it is a pretty cool fact that that's how intertwined we are with Canada geographically in this particular area of the country, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I feel the same way. I love being from Michigan. I think the people of the Midwest, specifically Michigan, are some of the kindest, warmest people to your face and behind your back, right? And they'll look out for you if they buy into you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're pretty good judges of character, I think. People have a really good eye on that, on seeing other people for who they are, both good and bad, right? And
Yeah,
and that's something great, is how genuine they are.
yeah, and I think it's a compliment. I have a friend of mine who's originally from Washington State, and I did tell her one day, I said, "You are the most Midwestern person I know who's not from the Midwest," and she thought it was the greatest compliment. because there is something about the middle class here. I think the fact that a lot of people can relate to everyone else's situation. Um, and, I've been in New York City, I've been to LA, and it's just a different vibe, right? You go to New York and, yeah, if after you talk to a few people, you can warm up. But I mean, it's cold. You go there and it's just a million people going in a million directions, and there's no privacy the second you leave your apartment or wherever you live, your townhouse, whatever. The second you leave your front door, you are shoulder to shoulder with someone until you get back to your house at the end of the day. And so that causes a certain personality type, I imagine. But, Michigan is known for its hard work. And, and they always say that when about our sports teams too. We are a blue collar town, right? Like
Grit.
blue collar, yeah, grit, blue collar. We love the athletes like Ben Wallace, Dennis Rodman,
Love it.
Darren McCarty, like the guys who just listen. I would not be a superstar in any other team in the country, but here it is just my effort that's going to get the job done, and the people are going to love me for it. I mean, they don't speak with that kind of hubris, but I mean, but that's just the mentality that we are around here,
Yeah.
that we appreciate the athletes who are willing to just grind. And yeah, like you said, grit, the going to work Pistons, like that is a badge of honor for the Metro Detroit area. And like I said, and that's how we treat people. We treat them like, listen, we're going to give you the shirts off our back because, we recognize the hard work in other people. We know what the struggles are. And it's just such a point of pride. It just really is. I mean, just talking about it, I'm getting goosebumps, honestly. Because like I said, I've been to other parts of the country and it's just not the same. I mean, people are nice, but here there is a sense of if a community has to rally around someone or a cause, or I mean, Oxford Strong, obviously. When that happened in Oxford, people rallied. And Oxford Strong is still a phrase that I see on hats and t-shirts these years later because we understand, that a community helps lift up the people in it.
I think Michigan is a great example of a place that is desperate for that sense of community, and when it does seem like it has gone a little bit further from where it should be in other places, and I do think that's a valid point that people from Michigan take great pride in being here and being a bit more rugged and being able to endure the weather when it's necessary.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just makes us enjoy the good stuff when it happens that much more. We had a beautiful 75 and sunny day the other day. Every single neighbor was out.
Yeah.
Everyone was out there. You don't take it for granted, right? And I'm sure it's like that in a lot of other places when spring
Yeah.
turns, but we know we only get a handful of perfect days. I call them Michigan tens, right? The
Yeah.
10 10 out of 10 day in Michigan, you don't get a lot of those. And so when we do get them, we value it. And I just want to touch on a couple of the other points you mentioned too. I thought the mention of Ben Wallace was perfect. An
Yeah.
undrafted
Yeah.
NBA player who comes in and ends up being, defensive player of the year, an NBA champion. You could say Chauncey Billups led them,
Yeah.
but I think the defense led them, and the best defender on our team was Ben Wallace. So, what a great, encapsulation, I think, of what it means to be representing the state of Michigan, whether that's in Detroit, whether that's in other cities, or whether that's just the state as a whole. Great example of the pride that people have in being not only from the Midwest, but from Michigan and specifically their cities. Because you look at the cultural differences, the geographic differences in Michigan, it spans the whole gamut. People know how awesome Michigan is who live here and have experienced it because you nailed it with your friends coming into town with you can take a week and you can experience so
Yeah.
much diversity of
Yeah.
activity, right?
And environment, like total environment too. I mean, it's just crazy.
Absolutely. Hit Lake Michigan, yeah, hit the Tulip Festival, go to a game in the city, go to Grand Rapids on your way back and stop in. And it's just like,
Okay, let me. I'm going to interrupt
yeah,
you because
yeah,
you
you got
hit a
something.
magical word. So We are a festival family, so I'm going to ask you.
Ah,
I know I'm going to hit you this. I didn't prep you for this one, but
nope.
if you were to this, because if I were to ask you to name your favorite festival that is Michigan centric, I'll give you the chance to name what are three of your favorite Michigan based festivals to hit.
Oh boy. Yeah, I love the no prep that we've got going on with it. Uh, I named it off the top because I think that Holland is my
Mhm.
favorite Lake Michigan town. I
Okay.
think going up all through Lake Michigan, it's just beautiful. But I think Holland is just special in its own little. I mean, it's called Holland, and it
Yeah, yeah.
literally has its own vibe, right? So I'd say the Tulip Festival. I lived in Royal Oak for a long time, so I got to give a shout out to Arts Beats and Eats. I
I
kind of
went to the very
miss.
first one.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
I went to the very first one when I worked for Channel 955, and the very first one was in downtown Pontiac, if people didn't realize that. But it started in downtown Pontiac and eventually moved to Royal Oak, and both cities have done a great job with it, but Royal Oak is definitely, I mean, that's a staple now of a Royal Oak
Absolutely.
summer.
I love the bands that they get to go out
And
there,
they
and
get
they
some
have.
really get they get some big names too over
Yeah,
there.
not only do they get big names, but because they have so many stages and a whole weekend to fill, they
Yeah.
end up filling it with a ton of local artists. So I've got a
Yeah.
lot of friends who've been in, bands or solo artists who play there, and they have a blast.
Yeah.
And it's really accommodating, really great. But I think, and it's been mentioned already today, but I think the Jazz Fest in Detroit has
Yep.
to be on my top three list as well,
I am
because
a fan of the Jazz
yeah,
Fest.
the Detroit music scene has evolved how I don't know how many times since its inception, from Motown to gritty MC5 rock,
Mhm.
to the rap and rap rock revolution of the
Yeah.
early 2000s, late 90s. So it's so cool to see that a foundational genre of music like jazz is thriving in a town in the Midwest like Detroit, and it's good. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the best part about it is you go check it
Yeah.
out and you'll know that.
Yeah.
So what about you? You said you're a festival family, so what's your
Yeah.
top three?
I love the Cherry Festival.
Good
I
one.
haven't been in a while, but I've been to a couple. I love the Cherry. I love that it's a week-long festival. It's an event. I mean, it is. Oh
And
man.
that's Traverse City, obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Traverse
Mhm.
City. It's just a week long. It's on the water up there. The Peach Festival's cool. I like the Peach Festival in Romeo. That's a good time too.
That is a good
Troy. I
one.
got to give a shout out to Troy Days. Troy Days is a 4-day festival every year. The third weekend of September usually. And but they bring it it's diverse. They have music. They have a lot of presentations. They have rides for the kids, great food vendors. I love the shawarma from the Mediterranean vendors. Oh God. I anyway, so and then
Yeah,
I've hosted
go ahead.
International Day. I've been the MC of International
Oh
Day,
yeah, yeah.
and we've been fortunate to have some amazing international acts representing just so many different cultures from China to India to Korea to, I mean, you name it. And it's awesome. And people are there because we have a brand new pavilion now in Troy, and they have a new stage that they set up, and people are there from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. at night. The same people sitting in the same chairs, just watching act after act all day perform and just getting just a culture rush all day long. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see.
To add to your shout outs of that area, I think the communities of Rochester, Sterling Heights, Rochester Hills, and Troy all do such a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Those councils and the people there of doing community events and family oriented events and getting people out like they're never not packed,
Oh yeah.
and it
Oh yeah.
it's always busy. Everyone comes out to support. Everyone's made aware of it. So props to those communities for really prioritizing these events because if
Yeah.
you don't, then they just don't
Yeah.
happen, right? So it
Yeah.
takes a lot of effort.
And Festival of the Hills in Rochester Hills, Sterling Fest is another multi-day one. Those are great family events,
Yep.
obviously. Those are the best parts about summer, honestly, for me. I love that. The kids love the fireworks at night, the cotton candy during the day. It's just great times. I mean, it's just you can't beat it. That's why. I mean, and that's not unique to Michigan, but Michigan just has some, like you said, there's a tulip festival, there's a cherry festival, a peach festival. I mean, you name it, no matter the local agriculture, whatever, we celebrate it. And that's another beautiful thing about our culture. No matter how seemingly insignificant you would think in the grand scheme of things, okay, we're going to celebrate peaches. Yeah, let's have a festival about peaches. Let's have a festival about
Yes.
tulips because that's what we do, and people are going to come out and be excited. And this is going to be the weekend that we do it. So that's a beautiful thing.
All right, we could talk for
Yeah.
hours about, and
Yeah.
Grand Rapids Art Walk, like, that's another, like they're popping into my head
The Ann
as we're
Arbor
talking
Festival,
about them.
the
Just
Ann Arbor Art Festival is
yes,
another one. That's a monster one. I love
absolutely.
that one too.
But we could do our own
Yeah.
whole episode on awesome places, festivals, and things to
Yeah.
do. But I do have to ask. I haven't asked you this ever before. Are you much of a euchre player?
Yeah. I'm the
Me
greatest
too.
snooker player of all time.
Okay, well, we'll have to put that to the test.
When it comes to having bowers in your hand, now, do you lead with bowers or do you hold on to them to like throw an upset later in the hand? What's your thing? Do you lead with them or do you hold on to them?
So I don't want to give too much of my strategy away since I know we're about to play. But for the listeners, I might as well. I'm a pretty aggressive euchre
Okay.
player. I go alone a lot. If I got both bowers, and then maybe throw.
You're throwing them out there right off the bat.
If I got both Bowards and the rest are nines, I'm considering going alone, right? Because and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you throw an ace in there, offsuit ace,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going alone.
Okay. It's such a fun game too, because in that situation where you have two bowers and three nines, all you do, you look at your partner like, just give me one. Like, I
Just
just
give me
get me,
one
just
win.
get me one. Just
Yeah.
get me
They say you're supposed to rely on your partner for one,
one.
one,
Just one.
trick. But I like to be a little riskier than I think most people like. So
So
people who are
point,
my
so so
teammate might not like that.
so point totals, right? If you go alone, you get all five, you get 4 points, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay, I invented something because one of my favorite bands back in the day was Blind Melon.
Nice.
And my thing was if you declared that you would go alone before even looking at your cards, I called it a blind melon, and that would be worth 8 points.
I
So
love that.
so if you were like desperate and getting smoked like 9-1 and you had needed like a Hail Mary, that was a prime opportunity to pull a blind melon where you would say, I'm going alone, and if you got all five, you got 8 points. So that was I invented
Man.
that one. You're welcome,
I
Michigan.
really like that one. I was 8 points. I don't know. That's still not rich enough for me. I think I want an automatic win or something. If I go alone blind and win, then that's
Yeah.
that's the championship right there. All right. So aside from games, we talked about
Yeah.
look, geographic stuff, but let's talk about food and drinks. We've got a lot of quintessentially
Yeah.
Michigan-based food and drinks. What are some of the ones that stand out to you?
So when we were in DC, my wife did work with someone who was also originally from Michigan. So she hosted some parties where they had Better Made chips, they had Verner's. I know that at our wedding, so when we got married, we actually had the reception, the wedding and the reception in San Diego, and we specifically ordered Mackinac Island fudge
Oh,
as the treats, as the gifts for our guests. So everyone got a box, and they had different flavors. So you had to flip the box upside down to see there was a sticker that said what flavor it was, and people were trading at the table like, oh, I had this, vanilla or nut, almond nut, whatever. So people were trading those. So I'm a big fan of Mackinac Island fudge. Superman ice cream is
oh
apparently
yeah,
not really known outside of Michigan, but Superman ice cream is one of my go-tos if they have it.
absolutely.
I'm getting it. Coney's. If you bring
Yes.
someone out from outside of Michigan and they're not vegan or vegetarian, you're going straight to a Coney's too because they've heard about it. So we always make a stop when I bring someone in, Michigan. Greektown. Anything in Greektown. Are you kidding me? I love going to Greektown. Detroit style pizza. I'm not a
Now,
fan
do
of.
you have do
Go
you
ahead.
have a chain or a pizza shop that you?
Listen. Yeah,
I
everyone
don't
does.
want to
Listen,
start too much controversy here.
listen. People, I, I love Jets. I'm not gonna lie.
Jets,
Like
100% all the way.
Jets hits the spot. I
It's
don't care
Jets.
who you are. Jets brings you back to a place.
Yes.
It just
I
does.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we used to do pizza Fridays when I was growing up. We
That should be a thing. If I get elected, I'm making that a law. Pizza Fridays should be a thing.
it was 100% a thing in my house, and I looked forward to it. And it was always Jets Square, but then we switched to Cottage Inn, and
Oh, I've had cottage in.
I respect Cottage Inn. I like their pizza, but it's not Jets. It's not the best.
Yeah, the problem with Pizza Fridays, though, practicality, is that my kids have pizza on Fridays at school lunch.
Oh, okay.
And so if we have pizza, I mean, then it's like we can't have pizza again for Friday dinner because my kids are going to be eating nothing but pizza all day Friday.
Hey, so the
So
school has Pizza Friday, so
yeah,
they've
yeah, yeah,
already
yeah.
got on board.
That's the
That's
thing.
great.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, it has to be a lunch thing because otherwise people are going to be, unless it's not a bad thing if people are eating pizza twice a day, I guess. But I'm just saying we should make it that's going to be a law. That's the thing. Friday lunch, pizza, work provided. That we're making that happen. We're
See,
making
this
that
is
happen.
these are the types of ideas that will bring Democrats, Republicans, independents to the
Dude,
table.
argue with me. Argue with me on that. Honestly, seriously, like if you show up with a box of Jets lunch on Friday, everyone's sitting down and having the greatest time together. I don't care what your political affiliation is. So.
Seriously.